I think this is the most serious, well-coordinated attack on voting rights that we have seen since the end of the Civil War. But I think there are a couple of themes here. One, a lot of the states that are doing this are states that were subject to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Then the Supreme Court, 2013, as you probably know, they basically gutted one of the key provisions of the Voting Rights Act.
And incidentally, as soon as that got gutted, immediately there were legislatures that passed legislation that changed it.
Because the 2020 election was so hotly contested, and because minority voters are so key, battleground states, that's where you see these efforts really being concentrated. Here's what's different this time. They're trying to make it harder to vote by mail.
What all of this boils down to is an erosion of the electorate's idea that elections are free and fair.
And one other thing I think we have to emphasize is that with all these attempts to make it harder to vote, they're based on the idea that there's somehow fraud in elections. And that's false. There is virtually no significant fraud in any American elections anywhere. So this is, a solution in search of a problem that doesn't exist. But what they'll do is they'll impose ID requirements, which is, again, just trying to make it hard for people to get registered and vote. They will reduce the number of drop boxes. They want to make people drive farther or walk farther. They want to make it less convenient. And that's what this is all about. Then there are two other prongs to this that are also very serious and really are kind of new. So one of them is that these laws, and they haven't really been adopted yet, but they're proposed, is they would actually impose criminal penalties on election officials who make innocent mistakes. And typically they would impose criminal penalties, not fines. We're talking about people going to jail. Public servants going to jail because they give someone a mail-in ballot, they didn't request it.
That's a felony.
That would be a felony. So clearly they're trying to intimidate election officials. The third really insidious leg of all this stuff, they are setting up mechanisms in which the Secretary of State, apolitical, professional, that if there were a contested election or controversy about the election results, then partisan type politicians could step in and usurp some of the functions of the Secretary of State.
So these are not specifically voting rights, but they're more trust in the integrity of the voting system. I think I would put it under, and that's just as much under assault right now.
Under the new voting rules in Texas, 12% of mail-in ballots were rejected. That's huge.
These battleground states are absolutely 50-50 right now. That's why they're battleground states. And it doesn't take being able to, rejecting 12% of the mail-in ballots is an enormous number of votes compared to the margins in most of the elections that are there. But by that same token, doing positive things by trying to protect rights can have that same effect.
You gotta help people register. You gotta help get them to the polls. You've got to advise people of their voting rights. So particularly for the lawyers among our class and alumni, there's a group called Election Protection, nonpartisan, excellent. You do have to be a lawyer to work for them. And what they do is they allow you to call from your office or house, and you advise voters on a real-time basis. Where we got issues are, no surprise, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Texas, Wisconsin, and Virginia. So if any classmates live in those states, those are key areas, and unfortunately the potential for abuse is pretty high.